So the Republicans are in charge, given a mandate by America to change the course of the country. But that does not mean Americans are happy with what's going on with Washington. It's just that they wanted to deliver a message. The GOP doesn't have to not only prove itself, it has to improve itself. And I've got two gals who think they know how that can be done. Miriam Weaver and Amy Jo Clark, known as Chicks on the Right, join me now, and I'm so glad to have you.
Thank you. We're glad to be here. Thank you.
All right. You also
stay connected.
No kidding. We've also got you as an author's Right for a Reason, which is a new book that you are putting out because, and we'll talk a little bit more about the book, because you really think there's a reason why you're a conservative and why conservatives kind of have to unite in their cause. But I want to start with what you think the GOP has to do in order to be successful. You suggest they need a big old-fashioned makeover.
Yeah, I think what they need to do is get better at their messaging. We both think that, and become more offensive rather than defensive in that messaging. And we outline that a little bit in the last chapter of our book.
In other words, because what I see from the outside looking in, you know, the GOP are very critical of Obama and the policies, but they never seem to have any kind of solution.
And I think they do, but I think that they're not very good at communicating those solutions, and so that's what we talk about in our book is how they can actually make the messaging side more effective.
Right. They're on an uphill battle because, as you well know, the mainstream media leans to the left by a long shot, and they seem to, you know, they don't really delve into the issues facing Mr. Obama. They're not critical of anything. I mean, he's had 16, 17 scandals that have barely gotten a mention that would, you know, sink most or every other president, but nonetheless, the GOP has kind of the odds stacked against it, that it has to work harder than ever before in order to prove who they are.
Exactly, and we wait a lot of times. We wait for the messaging to be served up to us, and then we, you know, are on the defense, kind of like what we said. So we just need to get better at serving up the message ourselves rather than waiting for the left to serve it up to us.
And so how do you see the next 2 years playing out? Because as you both well know, Obama's going to push through as much as he can before the exchange, the Senate becomes officially under the control of the Republicans. Like, how do the Republicans get out in front of this so that they're not looked upon, and as the media will play, that they don't want to work with Obama. It's their fault that they can't get anything and why Washington's gridlocked.
Well, again, it goes back to telling their story in a much more effective way. So, for example, they need to be talking to the public directly about the legislation that they're putting on Obama's desk, because now that they have control of the House and the Senate, there's going to be a lot that those two houses of Congress are going to be able to do together, and it will be Obama and Obama alone who is stopping any legislation from going through. So they just have to get better about telling that story.
And hopefully we'll be able to see the transparency that we've been promised for the past 6 years that we haven't gotten.
Well, you would think at some point he would be challenged, but for whatever reason in year 6, it's still not happening. I mean, you know, anytime you kind of challenge President Obama or his policies, it's looked upon, well, you must be racist. I mean, it's the old...
Yeah, we're so used to that.
Yeah, but nonetheless, you know, one of the problems with conservatism, as you point out in your book, is that you're never the right kind of conservative. On the left, liberals will take anybody. As long as you're left, hey, you want to be one of us, come along. Whereas conservatives are generally divided. You could be right, but you're not quite right enough, and or if you like anything on the left, you're not truly a conservative. Do you think conservatives as a whole can get together?
Gosh, we really hope so. Yeah, we do. We talk about that a lot because, you know, we prescribe a lot to the 80-20 rule, that Reagan rule, where, you know, if we agree 80% of the time, that is good enough, you know, because I think that we're all on the same team, and we see a lot of infighting on the right, which is just ridiculous. And we really hope that we can all, you know, just kind of bind together and put the differences aside, because it's really ridiculous, because we really are all on the same team.
And that's what we say in our book too, and we've faced criticism from all sides, whether it's right or left, and a lot of the things that we're criticized for are absolutely petty, ridiculous things.
Yeah.
So what we try to get people to remember to do is focus on areas of agreement. Just like Amy Jo said, it's that 80-20 rule.
Yeah, but you well know that the media is happy to lurch onto the one crazy in the conservative movement, and then all of you are branded as cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, whereas the left has just as many cuckoo birds that are never seemingly pointed out. You know, the U.S. Vice President Joe Biden has had way more foot and mouth moments than Sarah Palin ever had, and yet he's just kind of chalked up as the folksy old guy that just kind of makes some stupid comments, whereas she was vilified and to this day is still vilified in the media.
Yeah, which is why we're out doing what we're doing, which is why we've had our site for, almost 6 years. It's why we do what we do every day. We try to bring attention to those things because, like you said, the mainstream media, or the lamestream media, which is like we want to call it, they don't bring attention to those sorts of things. So it's bloggers and people like that in America who are bringing attention to those sorts of things.
Yeah, it's interesting how the outsiders seem to be kind of driving the message now, and are needed more so than I think ever before. We're kind of outsiders here ourselves at Sun News, and happy to be so, because at least we're able to have a critical and a different view that I think a lot of people are absolutely desperate to hear.
They really are hungry for it, absolutely.
All right, so the next 2 years I think are going to be very interesting, and there's a real opportunity for the Republican Party to come together and head into 2016. I mean, I'm not sure if maybe the shine is starting to come off, but nonetheless, whoever runs for the liberal leadership, pardon me, wrong country, but for the leadership of the Democratic Party, I mean, they will have a much easier ride than whoever runs for the GOP. But nonetheless, if they can't get it together on the right, you're going to have another Democrat in the House.
That's exactly right. That's everyone, any conservative, that's our fear. And it's why, it's part of the reason why we've written this book, is we want to make sure that people understand why conservatism is right and why it's right for everybody.
Sure. So is there not a balance that can be struck? Like, does the ticket have to be then a mainstream moderate and a Tea Party? Like, do you see the ticket, like, I'm not suggesting this would happen, but a Chris Christie to get the moderates in and a Ted Cruz to appease to the further right?
We wonder about that. I personally think that it needs to be a fresh face. I mean, that's my biggest concern, is I don't want it to be a recycled candidate. Because I feel like if we put a recycled candidate in there, it's going to be death for us.
So in other words, no Mitt Romney for you?
Yeah, no Mitt Romney for me. Not because I don't like him as a man. I think he's a great guy. I just think that if we put a Mitt Romney, or even worse, a Jeb Bush in there, because of just the name, that whole, quote, legacy thing, I just think that would be a huge mistake for us.
So who do you see then? I mean, are you looking to a guy like Dr. Ben Carson as someone who might be the guy to do it?
Well, I like the fact that he is a fresh face. I like Scott Walker because he's a fresh face. Sure. I like Rand Paul because he's a fresh face. I like Ted Cruz because he's a fresh face. I like those new names. I think that's good, because we need somebody on our side of the aisle that everybody can get excited about, because we are so hungry for that. We're excited. We're hungry to be excited about a candidate, which we have not been excited about a candidate for a really long time. So we need that.
And I don't think anybody wants another Clinton-Bush election. No.
Yeah. I mean, I look at a guy like Ted Cruz and I think, wow, he's a really smart guy, but I can see where the media would just have a heyday with him, and once again, the GOP would be fighting that mainstream machine. But nonetheless, you guys have a lot to look forward to and some exciting times. So again, the book is Right for a Reason. It's available in bookstores now, ladies?
Yes, it is. It is.
Perfect. All right, great to have you along for the ride. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Miriam Weaver, Amy Jo Clark. They're known as Chicks on the Right. They are cheeky. They caught my eye on social media, and I've enjoyed reading their posts.